Welcome back to episode 4 of Behind the Feed, the podcast that takes you behind the camera and into the lives of some of the amazing creators that we work with here at Engage. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Seán Fitzpatrick, who is an online fitness coach and a genuine, no-nonsense, straight-talking Irish powerhouse. Seán has paved the way in the online fitness industry, working with some amazing brands in the couple of years that we've worked together and built a very special community over the course of nearly 10 years. So make sure you like, subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the show. All right, guys, welcome back to Behind the Feed. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Seán Fitzpatrick, who I've had the pleasure of working with for coming up to 2 years now. It's been a fantastic journey. We'll kind of obviously go into it more on this show. But Seán, before we start, I always like to throw in a few icebreakers that we tailor towards each guest. So yeah, we're going to jump in with that. But first things first, I think as well, obviously recent news, just moving over to Manchester from Ireland, which is great to have you closer to us guys. Obviously can get a few more meetups and stuff in. But yeah, just talk us through that decision a little bit. And first things, obviously, how are you?
Good. Very, very happy to be here and to do so. It's very rare that I get the opportunity to do something like this. So first of all, Liam, thank you for inviting me down. Pleasure. My move to Manchester, I guess, was inspired by a couple of different things. Number one, I was living at home at the time and I was kind of getting a little bit sick of it. Mm-hmm. So,
which for those that don't know, obviously is back in Ireland.
Which is back in a pocket. It's a big city in Ireland, but it feels as though in comparison to being in the UK that you're in a pocket of Ireland.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to go do something, obviously the UK is the best place for that. You have to drive 2 hours to an airport, jump on a flight, then sort out your travel when you get to the UK. So for me, being in the UK for the time being just makes a lot more sense. I think there's a lot more opportunity in general for my particular field.
Definitely.
But also just more opportunities to meet people, to go to different places and to, I don't know, spend your time a little bit more wisely.
100%. And Manchester's such a good, heart for kind of all things social influencer, lots of people, lots of brands, etc. around that space. So yeah, like I say, so good to have you, closer to us guys as well. But yeah, like I said, mate, like to jump in straight in with some icebreakers. Like I said, tailored this to knowing you. What I think we get some good responses. I'm going to jump straight in with number one. What's the one gym etiquette rule you wish everyone followed?
To put back their weights properly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Pet peeve, especially with the weights you're picking up, mate. Biggest red flag someone can have in the gym?
When you say red flag, do you mean a personality trait or
it can be anything, mate. Anything that springs to mind.
I would say ego lifting.
Yeah. People like doing stuff wrong. And
when someone's doing a leg press and they load on 7 plates either side and they barely bend the knee.
Grunting like
that.
That
sort of thing. I'll do a bit of ego lifting. Maybe use a weight that's questionable for me, but I think when you're objectively performing for the crowd in the gym as opposed to doing and performing based off of your capacity, I think that's a red flag.
Makes a lot of sense, and I've seen plenty of that. If your content had a warning label, what would it say?
Prepare to be offended.
Yeah, that's fair. Very straight talking. Favourite session of all time? Obviously, I think even more recent since we've been working together, you're throwing yourself into more kind of like hybrid kind of challenges as well. But if you could do one last dream session, what would that be?
Has to be bench press.
Yeah, just a straight out bench press session.
It would be a chest session, but it would start off with bench press.
Nice. Dream gym partner to do a session with, can be dead or alive, and why?
Arnold in his prime.
Nice. Yeah, that's very, very good shout. Do you think someone you took a lot of inspiration from, or obviously I know he's a little bit before our time, but obviously there's lots of content and even documentaries, isn't there, of his work?
So there is a lot of people that I took a lot of inspiration from, and I think I'll use this opportunity to go off on a bit of a tangent as to why I feel I was as successful over 12 years in the gym as I was. And I probably aspired to individuals who were, maybe some of them were taking steroids, maybe some of them weren't, but the fact that they were so far along in their journeys, I didn't see that as a reason to be demotivated. I saw that as just pure and utter inspiration, and I said, it's similar to the analogy that if you shoot for the stars but land on the moon, you're still much further along than being here on Earth. So even if I never achieved the physiques that they had, I knew that if I was to take inspiration from them and, you know, try to emulate them as much as possible, that I'd look a lot better than I was at my starting point. Arnold was one of those people. Obviously, he's incredibly well documented from very, very early on. So I think anyone getting into the gym is going to hear of Arnold and probably find themselves in a rabbit hole watching pumping iron videos and whatnot. But for me, I think Arnold, as a young, impressionable 15, 16-year-old, even his roided up physique, at that time I thought, maybe there's a possibility that he was natural. It was the most natural looking, unnatural physique when I was 15, 16. Yeah. So because of that, I took a lot of inspiration from him.
Nice. And at that time, are you like immersing yourself in that world? Like, did you fall into it? Because it's quite nice, you know, moving on to kind of like your origin story and like where it all began. Like, is that something you were kind of immersing yourself in? Like, did you fall into the weightlifting kind of scene, or?
I only got into weightlifting because I was too light for my school rugby team.
Okay.
And we got knocked
out.
Which
is crazy looking at you now.
So I was about 70 kilos when I was 15, I think. So bearing in mind, I had to grow a few inches in height, so that would have added to the weight. But nonetheless, we got knocked out of a competition that we were a sure bet to win. And I took a lot of frustration upon my own shoulders, saying, if only I was 10 kilos heavier, I wouldn't have been tossed around so easily in the rucks or the scrums or whatever it was. So I remember just getting off the bus after we got back, getting knocked out in the quarterfinals, and I just marched home. First thing I did was go down to the local gym, take out a 3-month membership. And between that time and 6 months later, I gained 8 kg, pretty much all of muscle.
No way.
So I obviously knew then that I had a bit of a talent for building muscle. So I continued to play rugby for the next 2 years, but then once I left school, didn't really have that same desire to continue, as I hadn't made any provincial setups. So in Ireland, obviously the area where I'm from is Munster, and most guys who train in school aspire to play with Munster or get in with the Munster Academy. So then once that didn't happen, I just fell out of love with rugby and took all my efforts and put them into the gym.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess that's kind of moves on nicely then. So, you know, you're a unique creator on our roster who, you know, we're in a world where there's so many kind of creator-led businesses, and obviously creators kind of, you know, building the communities and then launch businesses. But obviously you were very much kind of coach business first, and everything else comes second, which we'll get into a little bit later in the episode. But what kind of was that? When did that kind of become something for you that you wanted to, you know, kind of like dial in on, I guess?
So my objective from the very beginning was to be an online coach.
Okay.
So I had no ambition of being I think
PT,
when I started in 2017, the idea of being a creator wasn't as common as it is now. You had a handful of people who posted pictures on Instagram and got thousands of likes. Yeah. But I wouldn't have considered them to be online coaches. But my goal from the very beginning was to be an online coach. Yeah. So with that in mind, from the very beginning, I posted value-based content. So tips, tricks, how to build muscle, how to lose fat. Yeah. And from there, my ambition was to get myself to a place where I had enough online coaching clients that I could simply just have a full-time job from doing that.
And obviously content then looked very different to what it does now as well. Just obviously, you know, there'll be a lot of people listening to this that are kind of aspiring to get to the position you're in, and content in today's, again, which we'll go into, is a different kind of landscape now. But what was content looking like then, platform-wise, and also like formatting?
I think right now, content creation is far more of a skill now than it was back then. So you could post pretty much anything in any format, any length, and at the time, platforms just distributed your content to your whoever was following you. Yeah. So there wasn't this obligation to play to the algorithm to have
explore pages.
Yeah, have scenes that are changing very rapidly to keep people's attention. It's very much a case that I could set up a camera, which I was doing at the time, and just speak for a minute or 2 minutes, just a literal talking headshot, and those videos would do quite well.
And just out of interest for people listening, is that YouTube, is it Instagram, is there a bit of everything? Obviously TikTok wasn't like a thing then, was it? So
yeah, so I think one of the reasons why I was able to develop a bit of a following in the beginning was because I was just quite good at naturally talking to a camera. I was quite good at just sitting there and having a monologue and being able to piece together a concept and talk about it in a way that made sense for people.
Yeah.
At the time, Instagram had a thing called IGTV, which is basically you could upload, I think, up to 5 or 10 minute long videos. Yeah. So it was basically YouTube within
on short form
Instagram.
Platform. Yeah.
So that was my bread and butter in the beginning. I had a knack for just sitting and talking for 3 or 4 minutes into the camera, and people seemed to think that I knew what I was talking about. Yeah. So there was an interest that gained with that. I guess over COVID then a lot of things changed, whereas that style of content wasn't doing as well anymore, and you really had to change how you're presenting content to be that more rapid, short form, engaging style of content for people to just stick around and hear your message.
Definitely.
So I spent a summer living with Seán Casey in Marbella in 2022, and that was where I really started to take seriously how I was presenting short form content from that point on.
Is that, would you say, like, I know content's always been a staple in your like business model, but is that where like you was focusing a lot more on actually like the content as well as like the business? I know it kind of goes in tandem, but is that where you would say you really started to kind of invest a lot of time and energy into learning the craft of putting content together?
So I wish I could go back to the days of 2017, 2018, because all I had to think about was what muscle building or fat loss concept do I want to talk about today? Set up a camera, speak for 2 or 3 minutes, clip it together, post it. That was it. So it took far less time than it does now.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if I want to talk about any particular concept, not only are you talking about what your script is going to be for the minute, how are you going to present that script, and how many videos do I need to collect to cut each scene to be 2 or 3 seconds in length, and also correlate with the content of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So content for a 1 minute long video, and look, some people just naturally have a personality where they don't have to go to those lengths, but for most people you do have to just roll with the punches in how content nowadays is presented. Whereas nowadays a 1 minute long video could easily take 3 or 4 hours in total.
Crazy,
to
and not a lot of people realise that effort, do they, and time. Like you say, I would 100% say that content creation is becoming so much more of a skill set now. Like, it's not just someone documenting a little bit of their life and blowing up. Like, it really is like becoming, like, there's even university degrees now, I know, that, you know, kind of specialising in social media marketing, content creation, etc. So it really is becoming like a craft, and I think that's always been like, I won't jump ahead too much to like where we kind of come into the mix, but one reason why I was like super keen to work with you is because, like, even now, like, we're trying to encourage creators to have, you know, personality really come through in content, authenticity, and that was just there in abundance from you from day one. Like, you know, that personality first content, and like you say, that's been like a huge kind of like staple, hasn't it, for you?
Yeah, I was very lucky that for whatever reason I was doing that very early on from 2017, 2018. You know, I was putting parts of myself out there online that was a bit taboo at the time. So it was, you know, nowadays it's very popular to be personal and to share almost, I think in some cases, arguably too much about your life and your private life online, just to grow that personal brand aspect. But for me, that was something that I was doing from the very beginning, and I think it's just fortunate, really, that is
what works.
What works nowadays.
Definitely. No, that's really cool. And I just want to kind of tap into a little bit about the online coaching space now. This is obviously, and it has been for a long time, like, you know, very competitive, very saturated. So what's been like the hardest part of like staying kind of on top and, you know, in today's day and age and staying competitive?
With online coaching?
Yeah. Well, I guess it all ties in, doesn't it? Being a successful creator, like, I guess, like you say, the skill of creating content now is a huge vehicle to building a successful online coaching business. You've got AI that's come into the mix. I imagine it's been quite disruptive for a lot of online coaches. You've got more people jumping into hybrid and doing bits of everything in training. So, like, how do you keep kind of like your business pushing forward in today's day and age?
So I think there's always going to be changing trends. There's always going to be new things in the mix. Now it happens to be AI, and, you know, a lot of people shit the bed with that and are completely and utterly changing what they're doing, how they're marketing, how they're speaking, and how they're conducting their services. But there are going to remain to be a few principles that are true with respect to what people are looking for from online coaching. So for the last 2 weeks, myself and my coach have been conducting calls with all members of the most recent challenge. And by far the most valuable thing that you can provide to people with online coaching is going to be that personal aspect, is going to be a person in each person's corner that cares about their progress, that is holding them accountable, and that I describe it from the perspective of what really gets someone to do what needs to be done, whether it's joining a boxing gym and going to that consistently, whether it's doing online coaching, it's feeling an element of guilt towards an actual physical person.
Yeah.
That if you don't do those things, they're going to know about it, and possibly they might judge you for it. Now, obviously, I don't judge anyone who doesn't, for whatever reason, has their struggles with online coaching. But at the same time, ChatGPT could give you everything that you need to know. It could give you macros, it could give you a step plan, it could give you adjustments, but how many people are going to feel a sense of guilt towards ChatGPT if they don't do what ChatGPT tells them?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, definitely.
So for online coaching, obviously there's cause for concern with some online coaches, but I feel it's all going to, especially nowadays that everything is becoming, I guess, lots of AI-based content, lots of AI-based scripts are online. The people who are able to embed that personal aspect into online coaching, who are able to show that they are there and not just leveraging AI to do the online coaching for them, that they are there overseeing their clients' progress, that they're the ones holding them accountable, they're the ones ultimately who are going to stay at the top.
Yeah, and people like that human touch, right? I've had it with CrossFit gyms I've attended and programs like training with people, like people want human interaction, right? And I like that, as well as the accountability piece and the added motivation that comes with that. I think it's great, and I think one thing, obviously working with a lot of kind of people in the kind of fitness creator space, is that also this whole industry's continued to boom. More people are becoming health conscious, more people want to look after their health, physical and mental health and well-being, and I think that's also what a lot of people don't address. Do you know what I mean? Yes, there's these kind of disruptions coming in, but I think more and more people I've got friends that you would never dream of, having workout plans and signing up to races and competitions. And I think that's another thing that people maybe don't address, the whole health and fitness kind of industry and the whole is continuing to broaden and have a range of different demographics kind of come into it.
Yeah, and on that point, I think I just I look around me now, and even getting the train up here to Leeds, everyone's head is in their phone. Everyone's no one talks to each other anymore. No one sort of just interacts with each other as they might have done 10 years ago. But I look at that and I go, okay, that's an extreme trend on one end of the spectrum. So I think of everything in terms of a pendulum. If something goes too far to one side, it's going to swing rapidly back towards the other. I think that's why run clubs have become very popular, is because it's an easy way for people to show up in groups, meet people, talk to people, work out with people. And I think as much as AI is going to continue to get stronger and stronger and probably erode those in the online coaching space who have nothing unique about them or nothing personal about them, I also think it's going to drive people to seek out that more personal, community-based
100%.
more.
Couldn't agree more, and I think it's an exciting time that, like you say, I think it's everything, same with my business adaptability, right? You've got to be able to adapt and kind of move with the times and stay on top. But I think I just want to then jump to obviously November 2023, I guess, where we come into the mix. Obviously I was introduced to you through a friend, and I think that I'd actually seen you on kind of algorithms before and always kind of resonated with your content. Like I said, that straight talking, no nonsense approach, obviously having a bit of a sports science background as well, always naturally listen to your content, always thought you were super value adding in that sense. So when I saw that there was an opportunity, was really keen to obviously chat to you, because I think there was a lot of unlocked potential there. And obviously when I did have a conversation with you, I know that brands wasn't something you ever really opened the door to. Do you want to just kind of, I guess, explain a little bit around that phase and kind of why that hadn't been a thing yet?
Admittedly, I always felt as though there was a stigma around working with brands. So one of my biggest inspirations when I was starting the online coaching was James Smith, and James Smith always made it a very public thing about how he never had to use code from a brand, or that he kind of ridiculed the more influencer based stuff. So admittedly, for many years that put me off, and said, okay, that's because he's someone that I uphold very highly, that's the footsteps that I want
that
to
was
follow.
coming from a role model. You thought that was the kind of footsteps you wanted to emulate as well.
Yeah, so that was one of the biggest reasons as to why I kind of stayed away from it for a long time. But then I started to realize, I looked down and the clothes I wear to the gym are Gymshark. The supplements in my press are, they're my protein.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm using these products anyway. People ask me what pants are those. People ask me what t-shirt are those. People ask me what's brand of supplement do you use.
Yeah.
So then in that instance, I was like, what is the problem with, I guess, repping brands that you were already using?
Yeah, exactly. And I think I remember going back to those early day conversations with you, and you could see there was that real hesitation of, bringing people into this trusted, it's like a baby, isn't it? A business that you built, and losing that kind of, but I remember saying to you, no, when we find the right brands, they will add credibility to you. They want to work with you for your professionalism. It's not your mainstream influencing of flogging, kind of everything, anything and everything. It was about finding the brands that truly align with you. Like you say, you're organically wearing them, you're picking them up naturally, and and that's still a big part of our strategy, of who we work with and why now, right? But how do you kind of vet that process? Is it just a case of working with brands that you personally identify, or do you think about your community as well before accepting that offer?
Yeah, so first and foremost is, would I authentically use this brand of clothing? Would I authentically use this brand of supplements? If I wouldn't, then it's not a question.
Yeah, of course.
It's not happening.
And you've always been very, kind of like vocal, even with me. If it doesn't fit, we don't explore it, which is the right way to be. And because some people aren't great at saying no, and that's like, I think that's what, like, testament to why you have the performance stats that you do with brands, why you have the following and the businesses that you do, because you are very selective about what you take on.
Well, I think in 2 years of working together, we've had 3
brands.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, long-term relationships, but like not like you say, like the range of brands has always been, like you say, you've nailed most of them there.
Yeah. So I think that there are certain gaps in my, I guess, in my lifestyle, that if a brand can come in, a brand that is, essentially fit for purpose and can fill that gap, well then, I'll do it. Amazing. My sense of dress and wardrobe sense was one of those things. Obviously I use supplements all of the time, every single day, so that was another aspect. And the other one that we had was Muscle Food, which was a meal prep company, and anyone who's followed me for any length of time
knows about your cooking skills.
Shy in the kitchen, so
I've seen some funny piece of content of some meals that are a few burnt sausages and burgers and.
Yeah, I told Liam this already, but I unironically had an air fryer at home, and I thought that an air fryer can basically cook anything. So I put a load of pasta into the air fryer without any water. 20 minutes later, took it out, and I was wondering, why is this burnt to a crisp? So.
Yeah, that's why it works so well. But I guess, like you touched on it, but what surprised you the most about working with brands? Like, obviously there was that massive hesitation there. Obviously brands come with, earning more financially, which is great. But like, what surprised you that you kind of maybe changed that perception that obviously, like you said, James Smithford, what then changed when you started working with them?
Yeah, going back to my previous point, another hesitation I had with working with brands would be that I'd be a puppet on a string for them and their agendas.
Yes.
And that was a massive apprehension for me, because I'd spent 6 years, dedicating my life towards building a social media presence with the view
trusted community and
building an online coaching business. And the last thing that I wanted to do was to sign on a whim with a company, and then all of a sudden I'm now just a puppet for that company.
Yeah.
What surprised me the most about Gymshark and my protein is how they've trusted me to market myself in a way that is suited to my personal brand and to my community. Yeah,
and that's something that, there's still brands that we're having challenges with now, and listen, that's what's great about long-term models. Like, there's that element of trust that can be, obviously, from looking at it from a brand perspective, there's investment going into it, has to be right. But, with you, that's never been a concern. But, it's such a good point that you've mentioned there, because, like, you have to let a creator be them true selves. They know their audience, they know what works, and I think that there's still some brands coming into space now, big credible brands that, you would think would know the stuff that are, struggling with that, forcing briefs, forcing messages down people's throat, and it just doesn't aligned. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why it's, you know, such a good point that you've touched on there, and something that, you know, we consider. I remember having a conversation with Gymshark, which, you know, don't mind like saying, where like there was obviously content for virality which could reach, but like it's not you. And I had a question on here about, has brand work changed the way you think about content? And like thinking about that point, in essence, like probably a good thing to.
Well, I think this is a good opportunity to discuss if someone has ambitions being an online coach versus a creator. The lines can get blurred very easily if you're not certain on what direction you want to take your content. So I think there was a time there where I found myself slipping more into creator style content that would be more aligned with someone whose ambition was to work with brands versus someone whose ambition is to provide value and to build an online coaching business.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I identified that very quickly.
Definitely.
But it is important that you have your North Star at all times. And if you are an 100%. Online coach, most of your content needs to be directed towards providing valuable fitness information to the people who follow you. Likewise, if your North Star is working with as many brands or with your dream brand, then your content needs to align with that style. And it was just that with that conversation with Gymshark, obviously my North Star is to be an online coach. So that was the direction that I needed to take my content. But in terms of has it changed how I view content, I think absolutely, because it's an entirely different field almost when you go from a mentality of just, okay, how much value can I pack into this post versus, again, brands are going to be more conscious of content that does well from an engagement standpoint. And oftentimes when you provide very valuable posts, they don't tend to do as well in terms of engagement.
Yeah.
So,
and that's always a balancing act, isn't it? You know, balancing kind of organic engagement, but still getting it performing well enough for the brand from their own metrics. And because obviously there's no ignoring the fact, like, brands have got performance KPIs that they need to hit. But so it's interesting you touch on that you know, and it is still something that we see a lot of people struggle with now. But like, how would you say you navigate through that?
I think acceptance is just the biggest thing. And I think that a lot of people can almost, they can sleepwalk into a certain style of content without that being their driving ambition. And what I mean by that is that if you're someone who's both does online coaching but also is a creator for brands, you might post your value-based post for your audience and to provide value for your audience, but that mightn't do as well as when you do a 8-second trending
virality style video.
So if that video does very well, naturally your brain's going to associate this style of content with doing better in terms of engagement. And if you're not aware of the need for both, you'll just end up sleepwalking into being a creator based.
It's such an interesting point you touched on, because like I think what we're seeing now, like, you know, in this industry we work in, like brand spend year on year for influencer marketing, creator marketing is getting, you know, increasing, and it's great, and what's coming with that is more content. But actually one thing that we're trying to help, like, you know, brands we work with creators is actually like going viral for a creator is one thing, and like that gives you a following, but actually what's the goal? Like you say, what's your North Star? If it's then to work with brands, well, to work with brands, you've got to have a trusted community there, right? If videos that you've built a following off virality videos, but there's not been a community, it's been nurtured and, you know, kind of like built organically, when you find some creators start to work with brands, like there's no pull through, right? Because there's no clips. So that's why I think, you know, that's what we spend a lot of time like working with creators on building that kind of community kind of right, so that if brands is a goal, like there's an element there of like we've done with you, you know, it's like aligning with the right brands that suit that community. I think when you've got creators that are just focused on viral content, I personally don't understand like what's the goal for that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, yeah.
It's very difficult, almost impossible to build a very bought-in community off just aiming for viral content.
Yeah, agreed.
Because viral content, what is the definition of viral? Well,
it's true.
It appeals to anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
So it's not content that's embedding you as a more looked up to individual in your community.
Definitely.
Whereas that's where you need to, I guess, have the humility to sidetrack your desire for the most highly engaging piece of content, and understand that if you really want to develop a proper connection with your community, you need to be there to provide value for them. And
Agreed.
as I said, value is very rarely correlated with your most engaging posts. It's probably in comparison to your viral trending posts, it's not going to do as well, but
Agreed.
It's still very, very important, because if you don't nurture that community, then what are you
True.
doing it for?
Yeah, 100% true. And I guess like obviously there's a lot of people that watch this that, you know, are very interested in the world of partnerships, and I just wanted to like briefly touch on some brand moments with you, and I guess like just talk us through that, you know, kind of like signing with Gymshark moment, you know, signing with MP and doing some of the stuff that we've done recently in Manchester. Like how did that feel? And, you know, because obviously not a lot of people aim for that and don't get there, you know, so how did that feel for you? Because it happened quite quickly as well, right? Like, you know, we started working together in November and in 2023, and then started working with brands. It must have within the first couple of months, if I can recall correctly.
Well, both Gymshark and MyProtein were very memorable experiences. The reason being is because you go back to my very first posts, which is again nearly 10 years ago. And what am I wearing? I'm wearing a Gymshark t-shirt and a MyProtein stringer. Yeah, I remember. And MyProtein supplements. So
I remember you bringing it up in the meeting with them. Sorry, obviously don't remember the video. And then we actually, in some intro content, used some archive footage, wasn't it? Which was such a nice story to bring to surface.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I think with the Gymshark one, it was just, even though, you know, obviously there's a difference between an ambassador and an athlete, and the athlete's the top level, but where I was coming in was a comparatively low level. For me, it didn't really matter, because I was like, I have a code on a website from a company that I used to save up for months to buy clothes from, and all of a sudden my name now takes 10% off people's orders. So for me, that was a pretty cool moment. Yeah,
and then I guess a slight jump into MP, which has been more recent, you know, kind of, obviously the conversations there was around being a key ambassador for, obviously working with them on their supplements and spearing up a new division for the kind of like men's clothing, which actually you're repping today as well. But, you know, like we obviously went to Manchester, there was 10, 15 people shooting around you. How did that feel?
That was one moment where usually I'm the type of person who doesn't really appreciate when cool things are happening. But there was a moment within that where there was, as you said, like a full-on film crew of like 10 people, all these
big studio.
Lights, like it was a studio. And I was like, they're here taking snaps of me. I was like, this is MyProtein. Again, a supplement company. I think I bought my first bag of creatine off in 2015, and my mother still thought they were steroids. And I was like, this is the most nuts thing ever. But it was one of those things that I had to just stand there and go, hold on a second, Seán, appreciate what's going on. It's like never in a million years.
Like an out-of-body experience almost.
Like it was almost like if I'd gone back 10 years ago and said to the 16, 17-year-old Seán who was starting in the gym, that one day you'd be in a gym, you'd have a team of MyProtein people around taking snaps and footage of you. There's absolutely zero chance in hell he would have believed me.
It made me feel proud, mate, as well. I remember on the day I said come with you for like big moments and stuff like that, and just seeing like, it was like a Cheshire cat, like the smile, like always trying to hide it all day on the face. It was really nice to watch, and obviously there's some more exciting plans with them as well. And like, obviously like almost like the more satisfaction I get from this job is like seeing moments like that happen. And it's great to see it all, like I say, come into surface for you, mate, because you massively deserve it, you know, and it's great to see.
Thank you.
No worries at all. So yeah, I guess like I'm close to wrapping up, mate, but I want to kind of, you have already like jumped into it a little bit as we've been kind of moving through things, but like biggest advice, I guess, for creators and coaches like coming into this space now. Obviously, like you say, the landscape's constantly changing. It's kind of, you know, things are chopping and changing all the time. But what would your biggest piece of advice be based on your experiences?
Someone who wants to be a coach and a creator.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you kind of like coming into the online coach now, I mean, tell me what you think. I'm not like experienced in, you know, in your industry to kind of comment on this, but I would say, is it not a given now that you need a little bit of a personal brand on socials to have? I guess some creators, some people, coaches could still make a living from local footfall, but to really, I guess that's also comes into it, isn't it? What's the goal? But Because most people, I would imagine, are finding you through social media platforms, and that's now the new search engine. And
yeah, I would say it would be very easy to look at someone like me with, you know, the followers that I'm now very fortunate to have, and think that you can only build a successful online coaching business with an obscene amount of followers. But the reality is you really don't need that many.
Okay.
And there's plenty of online coaches who might have 1,000 or 2,000 followers.
Right.
But their whole mission is to just, every single post is just as much value as possible.
Yeah.
But combined with that, they're providing tons of social proof. They're showing that they're able to get results. They're showing this is the people that I've worked with, this is the transformation I've achieved. So you don't need to, like, if your sole ambition is to be an online coach, you don't need to go down the route of trying to go as viral as possible. You can have a very, you could have a relatively small amount of followers, but if, you know, there's 100 or 200 people watching every single post that you post, every post that you post is very
so
valuable.
People. Tips.
Like, you're going to build an incredible online coaching business.
And how would you say, mate, like, out of interest, like, you know, this more from a personal, you know, interest thing, but like the space, like the whole, like I say, I've got friends now coming into, but everyone seems to be chopping and changing. 1 minute doing a half marathon, then doing a high rocks, and, you know, then they're kind of just back in the gym for a little bit. Like, I remember being given a bit of advice from a friend when I started, you know, Engage, of just have one space and own it. Do you know what I mean? And that for me was health and fitness creators. And like, how was there anything around that? Like, I see a lot of coaches now trying to tackle a bit of everything, but is it better to just have like a bit of a niche and own that space? Or
yeah, because if you're trying to be a master of everything, you're a master of nothing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people hopping around, and, you know, you've bodybuilding coaches who are now all of a sudden full-time high rocks enthusiasts, but then in 6 months they'll be doing God knows what else. And I think that it's never going to be the route that's going to embed you as an authority within a certain niche or amongst a certain demographic.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's indicative of people feeling as though they need to constantly chase whatever's new, but you just end up chasing your tail.
Yeah.
And I think for me, a big realization that I've had over the last year, you know, I was getting into the high rocks training, and I was getting into all of that, but I had a realization. I go, people follow me because I'm that big natural dude who can bench 180 or whatever, and that's my
identity,
unique selling
almost,
point.
isn't
That's
it?
my identity. Yeah. So that's what I continue to ensure, that albeit I'm doing a half marathon at the weekend, it's not
your
what
whole
my
brand's
content
changing.
revolves around. You know, it's going to remain to be muscle building information, fat loss information. Trends in hybrid training and all of that will come and go, and there'll be a new modality or sport that everyone's seemingly pursuing, but you have to identify what is it that you're best at, what is your, as I said, your identity or your unique selling point, and stick to that.
100%.
And be the rock in a industry whereby everyone's fucking mentalities or ambitions change every 6 months.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's really kind of like inspiring advice for those out there kind of like coming into this world. But I just want to kind of like finish things on the future then, mate. So, you know, like I just touched on there, I think it's been an incredible 2 years working you from like a commercial standpoint, seeing, you know, you blossom in that sense, really go through, yes, okay, the range of brands, but like the way you've developed through those brands has been so impressive and so, you know, so good to see. But like, you know, in general, where do you see kind of like, you know, you in the next kind of 2-3 years, and you know, from a personal brand perspective?
Very difficult for me to identify. I'm not one of these people who has an exact 5-year plan.
Yeah.
I feel as though I'm getting a little bit drained with the keeping on top of the short form, and you know, how you need to constantly evolve. And it takes away a little bit from the fun of just being able to sit down and post whatever you want and talk about whatever you want. And for me, I think that's where I'm going to see a bigger move towards YouTube and longer form content, because in my head I going back to my pendulum analogy, if everything seems to be going in an extreme one direction, which I consider short form content to be that extreme now, people are going to start to crave and desire something that's a little bit more thought out and slower paced. And I feel that's where platforms like YouTube in the next couple of years are going to start to excel.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think as well, like, you know, I identify you as quite unique on our roster as, like I say, a coach first, where we work with a lot of creators, but I think one thing we're already seeing a massive shift in is that you know, those one-off kind of like campaigns are really dying off, and storytelling is winning, creators that are taking brands on a journey with them, and that's where longer form content really comes through and is winning. And like I say, authenticity, I think, will always be kind of, will trump all, if you will. So I think that suits you, you know, to a T basically, and I think the content that you do is always gonna like connect and inspire others. Yeah, so. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, what's exciting you most about the future? Just to kind of, you know, wrap things up.
Just generally.
Yeah. Like, I guess, yeah. Personally, obviously, just had a big life change, moved to Manchester. Like, obviously, recently brought on a coach. I know you were telling me before this has been great. Like, is it the business plans? Is it with the partnerships?
It's for me. I had a message from a guy who finished one of the challenges 6 months ago, and he actually sent me a €150 voucher for curries. Such was his gratitude for his experience on the challenge. So he was a man who had one child at the time. He's recently just celebrated the arrival of a new one. But at the time, he was someone who he didn't realize the effect that his lack of fitness was having on his life as a whole, on his marriage, on his relationship with his children, and on his work. He joined 2 consecutive challenges, dropped 13 kilos.
Wow.
And over the last 6 months has just gone from strength to strength. And he sent me a message yesterday. It was a massive spiel of all that's changed in his life. He's developed, as I said, a much closer relationship with his children. His marriage with his wife is better than ever. But also he's got a massive promotion in work. And he said the reason was...
just winning at life more.
Well, he said prior to joining those challenges and being able to get into the shape that he got into, it was almost like his lack of fitness was reflected in his personality.
His
how
confidence as well, right?
And he's in a sales-based job, so him getting his stuff together from a fitness standpoint meant that every time that he walked into a room to a prospective client, he carried himself as just such a much more authority and much more self-respect.
Amazing.
And because of that, he's ended up getting a massive promotion in work. And that's why he sent me the voucher.
Because that's amazing. Well, I've always been a big believer of like, look good, feel good. It's true, isn't it? And that's what exercise, not just physically, but, you know, it's just so good for the headspace. And like I say, just makes you, I think, just such a more confident individual to, you know, tackle life. So is that the kind of the answer then, really, to keep changing more people's lives and have that effect on people?
Like there's very few ways you can replicate the feeling that I had yesterday.
Yeah.
And not just because of that one individual case, but because of over the last 5 years, the amount of lives that have changed through my coaching. Continuing to do that at a larger scale is what excites me the most. Amazing.
And on a personal level, throwing yourself into new challenges, mean you're actually going to be tackling London High Rocks, which I'm super excited for, to see how that goes in March. But I know obviously you've got the half marathon coming up on Sunday. Is that what you want to do, just from a personal perspective, keep throwing yourself into new kind of fitness challenges, see what you can do? I think a man of your frame taking on these sort of things is always going to be very interesting for people to kind of watch and see what happens.
Well, that's the draw towards the half marathon, is I can't help but accept the fact that people see me as a bit of a novelty when it comes to, someone who's 105 kilos trying to run a sub 150. So it's partly entertainment, but it's partly also, I think it's really important to set goals that are slightly outside of your comfort level or what you're currently capable of doing.
Yeah.
For me, just setting physical goals is the most practical for me. So 2 months ago, I set a goal of wanting to pause bench 180 kilos, which I've never done, which was at the time probably 10 or so more kilos out of my ability, but also run a sub 150 half marathon at the same time. So it's given me sciatica in both my legs, but I think I'm in a good position to be able to do it.
No, it's good pushing the body, isn't it, to see what it can truly achieve. I've always said it's the most amazing machine in the world, so I think putting it to the test is so good to see. But Seán, honestly, thank you, mate. That was brilliant. And like I say, just to echo again, it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege working over the last couple of years, and hopefully long may that continue, and seeing you kind of go from strength to strength and classing you as a friend that I do now as well. It's been an amazing journey, mate, and like I say, you're doing such a good job.
Thanks, Liam.
No worries. But yeah, if you enjoyed the episode, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on all social platforms. We'll obviously link everything before you. But yeah, see you on the next episode Behind the Feed.